Right guys, big welcome to you all to our channel. We are team crushing the meta. You're with d.boy right here, and as you can see we are back with another deck profile or to talk about the new cards for Spike Release. So the cards that we talk about are of course the new reveals, the Dudley cards, and how you could build a deck around them. So in this video we'll talk about deck building. How could we build a deck with the Dudleys? And the easiest way to start doing that is just to see what the deck normally looks like and how could we use the Dudleys and put them in the deck. So this is my current build. As you see, I already took out Bracky because I found that there is no need to rush in the early game because you get new markers anyway from Rising. And of course, we do have a powerhouse in this deck, especially with the turn that you want to use the Spiking Cyclone ability to restand that powerhouse, and then you have the 2 Juggernaut and the 2 Needle. But yeah, that's it for this deck. If you want to know more about this deck, about this current build, because it's a little bit different than the one before, you could let me know in the comment section below and I will talk about that. But when we want to use the new cards, we will look through this deck and talk about how we could change the deck to the new deck that we want. First of all, we could jump into it and explain to you guys, but first, as I said, I would like to thank you guys for all the love and support you give to our channel, especially when sometimes I upload a spike for the video. Some of you guys get very interested and very hyped. I always like that, but also the other content that we're doing is also pretty good, especially when you have specialists like when it comes to gears, we have Dave. When it comes to Aquaforce, we have Alex, we have Varian, we have different people on our channel or in our team that could talk about something that they know a lot about. So that's very good, and I could not have done it without them and without you guys. All right, subscribe, like, and comment. Of course, your comments always welcome. I like to hear your thoughts every time. So yeah, let's get back to the video. So we want to build the deck, as I said, with the new Dudley cards. And how could we do that? What could we take out to put them in? So let's talk about the grade 3s first. So without talking about this deck, the grade 3s that we want to put into the deck are of course the 4 copies of the new card, which is of course Dudley Lucifer. If you don't know what this card does, pretty much he has 2 abilities. The first one is whenever he is Superior Cold, you could Soul Blast to counter charge, an interesting ability that gives you the choice to choose between, do you want to have an extra soul or do you want to have an extra counter blast. And because you have stuff in the deck like Dexter that could give you the soul back, but then you need the counter charge, so that's why this card is so good. The second ability is when he attacks, you counter blast 1, you put one of your Rygars into your soul, you draw a card, you call it Dudley from your hand to a Rygar circle, and if your opponent is at grade 3, that unit gets an extra 10k as well. A very good card, especially in combination with the grade 2. Alright, so we want to put Lucifer in. So Lucifer will be the main Vanguard. But then what will the secondary grade 3 be? Will you play the Juggernaut? Will you play Bad and Dragger? What will you play? Well, there are lots of different builds that you could build. As I said, you could build it with Bad and Dragger, you could build it with Juggernauts and Bad and Dragger, but pretty much you could also build it with Rising, right? There have some people been asking me like, yo, could we have a build without Rising? Could we have a pure build? Well, Rising is also a pure build because what he does is he will copy his effect anyway, so why not add his effect and something else to the table? But then we will just talk about the Rising deck. So what are the choices that we have right now? Well, there is no pure Dudley because the only Dudley cards that we have are the 3 cards that we got from this box. So we have the grade 3, the grade 2, and the grade 1. And that's it. We could not have any other Dudley cards. So there is no pure build yet. You have to mix it with something different. And I would rather mix it with a Rising than with something like a Bad and Dragger. Alright, so what we have right here is there is no reason to have the Spiking Cyclone anymore, and we could also take out the Juggernaut because the Juggernaut is good when you restand him with the Spiking Cyclone ability. So we have to choose between Spiking Cyclone or the new Dudley Lucifer, and because we are trying Lucifer out, we will take the Spiking Cyclone out because there is no reason to play both of them. And there will be questions like, yo, which deck is better? Is the deck with the Spiking Cyclone better, or is the Lucifer deck better? But I will not get into it. I already know the answer, but I will not get into it, maybe at the end of the video. So you guys could be surprised there. All right, so then we have the second thing that you want to target with Rising, because there is no reason to target him twice. You need to have him in your deck, in your hand, for his ability to work, because you want to have more Dudleys to call, and we will get into that when we talk about the grade 2. So we leave Double Spike in here. Do you need 4 copies of it? Not necessarily. You could also play just 3 and the deck would work. But I like to keep the 4 because I like riding into it. I like going from Rising to Bull Spike, or from Bull Spike to Rising back. And he's just a very good card, and it's really nice to have him at 4 because, again, you don't really play Wonder Boy in this deck. Or maybe you do, but we'll get into the grade 1s. So this is your grade 3 lineup. There are 12 grade 3s, as we already played that in the past, and the deck works very well with those 12 grade 3s. And then we talk about the grade 2. So we have the new Dudley Grade 2, and this is one of the cards that makes this deck amazing. Okay, what does the new grade 2 do? Well, his name is Dudley Davy. I expected it to be a girl, but it's a boy. So yeah, okay, sure. Interesting art, very beautiful to have the other two, a guy and a girl, I think, behind him, chilling, but very, very, very Dudley-like. So that's pretty cool. He has 2 abilities. The first one is On Place, Vanguard and Vanguard, a counterblast of 1, and then you'll be able to call a Dudley from your deck, which is not a grade 2. So you'll be able to call Lucifer or call the grade 1, but pretty much you will go all the time for Lucifer. If you don't have Lucifer, then you could go for the grade 1. Alright, so then we have the second ability. Whenever the force markers move to this circle beneath this Vanguard, you will get the ability to Soul Charge 1. Very good, especially because he costs you a soul, he costs you a soul, and he costs you a soul. The deck costs lots of soul, and it's really good to get the soul back. So what you do right here is, you already know the ability, you attack with him. After attacking with the 2 Raggers already, then you use this to call from your hand, cost you another counterblast, and then you'll be able to call a new card from your deck, so you have 2 more attacks. So if we compare this to the Spiking Cyclone, then with the Spiking Cyclone you could restand 1, but with his ability you could restand 2. So that is definitely very, very good. Right, so what grade 2 do we want to take out to put this in here? Again, because we don't play the Spiking Cyclone, there is no reason to play the Powerhouse anymore. We don't want that. It's not a Dudley, we could not call it. So you could take the Needle out, or the Bracky if you play Bracky. Then we want to put 4 grade 2s, so we have to take 2 more grade 2s. You could leave the Shield in here, or you could leave the Breach. The good thing about Breach is, and I find him very, very important to add to the deck, is because the deck really wants to have the Lucifer left in the deck. If not, then his ability, the ability of Davy, will not really have a good target to call. So you pretty much want him in the deck. But if you feel that you are missing the shield value, or you don't have enough shield, then yes, this card is good as well. I like him a lot, but because I don't have space for Wonder Boy, I actually like to play the Breach. So your deck would look like this when it comes to the grade 2s. So we have 10 grade 2s. Then we come to the grade 1. Of course, we want to put the new grade 1 in the deck as well. And his ability, or his name first, is Dudley William. He has the ability that when you ride on top of him, you could call him to your Vanguard circle. You may call him, so it's up to you. You could also just leave him in the soul. If you play against a deck like Kagero or stuff that could retire in the early game, you could just leave him in your soul. And then we have the first ability, which is a Vanguard ability. When this unit boosts at the end of that battle, you could put this unit into your soul to move the markers to another circle. And this ability is very strong, especially when you ride into Lucifer and you don't ride into Rising, then you could move the markers with this as well. But even when you ride into or you use Bull Spike ability with the Rising, this card is still very good. Why? Because actually it's a Soul Charge too. You do lose him because he's not like Commander Gary Cannon that he gives you the card back to your hand, but he gives you 2 soul, because the first time he goes into the soul, he moves the markers, so that's actually an extra soul, because otherwise normally you would use a soul blast for Bowl Spike ability, and then because he goes to your soul, you could use Bowl Spike ability to move the things again, and because with Davy you could get the soul back, it's already good. And then we come to the question, which great one do we want to take out? Well, I actually tried taking out the Ambush Dexter, at least 1 or 2, but the deck didn't feel enough consistent for me. So I actually needed Dexter back to the deck. I definitely don't want to take him out because it's really good to search your grade 3s, and you want to ride into Rising at least 2 times for the deck to really be at its strongest. So the only card that you could take out is actually Commander Gary Cannon. I'm not 100% sure about this because I'm still testing it, but I found 3 more than enough in the deck, and I actually found also the Commander Gary Cannon less needed than this card. Why? Because it's always good to target him with him, and it's always good to have it on the field because you could use its ability also later on. It's good right target. All of these are good right targets, so you don't have cards in the deck that you don't want to ride. And there is nothing you could take out to put Wonder Boy in here. I see people playing 3-3-3 or 3-3-2 to just put Wonder Boy in here. I didn't find it necessary. So the deck looks like this. You play 12, 10, 11, which makes 33, and you have the triggers. The triggers could be different. You could play more crits if you want and less draws. I still like the draws because you could always discard them. You could always just you have different stuff that you could do with starters. You could always just discard them. They're always just 5k shields, but I find myself like putting them back to the deck or just using his ability to discard them, You have lots of ability that get you to discard them. Normally with Commander Gary Cannon is even better because you could put them back to the deck, but even in this deck I don't mind having the draw triggers in here. I just don't want to have too much crits because you always already play Force 2, right? And when your opponent will be at 3 damage, yes, you could put them at 6 right away with 3 damage, but normally they will guard that attack and they will take 1 who does 2 damage. So whenever they go to 4 or 5 damage, that's it. Then your crit would not do much because you have Force 2 the whole time and Force 1. So that's why I don't think that crits are necessary in this deck, although I don't want to play all out draws, so I do like a little bit of crits. But if you want to play 6 on 6 or 7 on 5, that's also possible. Alright, so let's take out the triggers right here. You see that I put in 1 Adelaide, so for you people who think, wow, I want to see Adelaide, yes, you see an Adelaide. And I also put in Linux in here because I still like him. The only card that I actually want to put in as well is of course Silent Joker, because I'm a big fan of this, but I will not take Fear out. Alright, so now we could zoom in and talk a little bit more about the deck and how it works, because as you can see, this is the lineup that I'm going with. One of the cards that I want to highlight is Breach right here. Breach is good on the second turn that you ride into your Rising and use Lucifer again, because sometimes you find yourself not having any Lucifers in your deck left, and that's when you use this to get Lucifer. If not, if you do not get the ability to get to Lucifer, it's still not that bad because you could always call William, and William is only a 5k less than Lucifer. The only thing that William doesn't give you is the ability to countercharge, but that's okay because you could always remove William back on the next turn and you could have more soul, because on that turn you will not have the 2 counterblasts anyway. So Breach is good, but he's not necessary, and that's why he's only at 2. I always also try them out at 1 and then I add in an extra William, but I found myself assisting 1 or 2 of my games because I didn't have enough grade 2s, and I found myself also needing that extra card in the deck that is Lucifer. So 2 is very good. It goes to soul, give you soul, let your opponent intercept. Very nice to target stuff like these with Ambush Dexter to get 2 of him out, or 1 of him and 1 of these 2, and you could do lots of crazy shenanigans. Also, just let your opponent intercept with everything. It's very nice, especially if they don't want to intercept. You could just attack with this and they will have to. All right, now how does the deck work? Okay, so what does your turn look like, and how does the deck actually work? So we have, when you go to our right targets, when we talk about the great ones, then we have, of course, 3 right targets. So let's talk about each and every one and how they work in the deck, and work our way through to the grade 3s, and then show you the combo that you do with your grade 3s. Right, let's zoom in a little bit on the playmat and explain that. Right, after zoomed in on this beautiful playmat that you could get from Zero Damage Gaming, let's talk about the combo that you do, or let's talk about the way that you go through the deck right into the right combo pieces and doing your stuff. So pretty much your starter is, of course, the running sniper right here, or if you are a big fan of the other starter, which is Mega Trainer, you could also play that. You can play whatever you like. But then we come to the great ones and the different right targets that you have in the deck. All of these right targets are great. Ambush Dexter is good to ride into if you have a draw trigger in hand, or you have the quick shield that you could discard anyway. The same goes for Acrobat Verdi. Any grade 3 that you search to your hand is good, especially if you don't have Rising. Then this is very good. And him, Dudley William, is also good because he comes out of your soul. And now this is where the deck becomes very good, because every grade 1 is a good right target. Every grade 3 is a good right target. Every grade 2 except Breach is a good right target. And with that, the deck actually functions very easy, and it has different ways to do its stuff. So again, I'm very happy with all of these. Some people ask and say, yo, do you want to lose the soul? Well, it's okay, because you will get the soul back. So if you ride into it and it comes out of your soul, then pretty much you minus yourself 1 soul, but later on in the game, he could go back to your soul, and with that you get the soul back plus the extra moving marker, so you +1 on soul. And because this already came out of your soul, you don't minus it going into your soul back, and you have it the whole early game, let's say, until you get your markers, to just boost with or attack with, or it's just there, it's an extra card in there. Go Ambush Dexter, an amazing card, give you the right grade 3s if you don't have the right ones. If you have a Rising in your hand and you ride into Rising, you don't have any other grade 3, no way to get them, you could just pull out the Rising and use this ability of Dexter to get the Lucifer and the Bull Spike on the field. And of course, Acrobat Verdi does what he does best. So that's it for the great ones. Let's say that we ride into a Verdi and we just get our grade 3, which is Rising. We add that to the hand and we discard the quick shield or the draw tree that we have in hand. Right, do not discard a Lucifer. Even if you have a Breach on hand, do not discard Lucifer, because you want the Lucifers on hand. You could discard a Bull Spike if you have 2 of them, but not a Lucifer. When we get into the grade 2s, there are 2 options that you could ride into. I prefer riding into Rona. Some people prefer riding into this. I actually want to keep this in my hand, so I could use it later on with the ability of Lucifer, or I could just call it on the field to get another grade 3 if you want to. So this stays in your hand. Breach stays in your hand for the second time you go into grade 3. So you use Rona's ability to get a grade 3 on the field. If you already have a Lucifer or 2, you just go for Bull Spike. But if you don't have any Lucifer, you could call Lucifer. But depending on how much Bull Spikes and how much Lucifers you have in hand. But normally, if you have a Bull Spike already and a Lucifer already, then you just go for Bull Spike, and you could also just call it on the field because you could attack with it, and if people kill it, then you still have the Bull Spike in your hand to call. If not, if people leave it, then it's good, but normally people will go into it. If you feel that your opponent is not giving you a counter blast or not playing that early game, you could also just call it in the back row, and that's also good to go. But if you're doing that, then you would rather call a Lucifer in the back row, because then next turn you could just call the Bull Spike that you have in hand, and that would leave you with 1 Lucifer. I hope that you guys are understanding all of this. If you have trouble understanding it, just ask in the comment section. I will try to explain it to you. But again, different things that you could do while playing this deck. So let's say that you have a Bull Spike and a Lucifer in your hand. So let's say that your hand has all the 3 different grade 3s. Then in this case, you will go for a Bull Spike. So you'll just call a Bull Spike to the field, and with that, you'll be good. Is that right? No, that's not right. You had to correct me right there. If you have all 3, then you go for a Lucifer, because then you will keep the Lucifer on hand. Peeps, you need to understand what I'm saying right here, okay? Again, so depend on what you have in your hand, the choices that you make. So let's say that you do it like this, and because your opponent is not rushing you, you want to put this in the background. So you know that your opponent will give you 1 damage later on, but he will not give you 2. So what you could do right here is you could use the skill of Lucifer to Soul Blast 1, and with that you get the counter charge back. On the next turn they will do you another damage, so you have the 2 damage because you need 2 damage for the combo. If you have only 1 damage, then you do have the combo, or you just ride into something different. So the next turn you go and ride into the Rising, okay? And now because Rising has new toys, I gave my Rising new toys. So now we could choose which beautiful Force 1, Force 2 marker we could use, and let's go for red and these 2 because I like this combination. So now you put the markers on the field, right? Okay, move this up and you call the Bull Spike that you have in your hand. And now you're left with 1 Lucifer in your hand. Or maybe you have even a better thing than Lucifer to call, which is this card, which is Dudley Daisy. So your field would look like this. You of course use the skill of Rising to Soul Blast 1 more, and with that you target these 2. And you see that you have only 1 soul left, which is not much, but again, it will be okay. You have the counter blast of 2. You attack first with this, and then your opponent usually will let this attack go through because, again, they just would like to take the first one. And what you want to do is you want to, in the early game, to put them at least at 2 damage. Why? Because that's when they will have to guard more than 1 attack. So in this case, if they are on 2 damage, they will take this and they will be on 4, and 4 is better than putting them at 5. So that's what you want to do. You want to put them at 4. So again, you attack with this, they take this, they go to 4, and let's say they get a trigger or not, doesn't matter. You Soul Blast 1 more, and you move the markers right here on this side, and you attack with this. And now they will have to guard. Okay, so now you have no soul left. You attack with the Rising, and you use the skill of Lucifer to put 1 of these into your soul. Whatever you like, it doesn't matter. You put just 1 into your soul, and you call something from your hand. I like to put this as fast into my drop zone as I can, because I will be able to recycle it if I have something that recycles it. So you call this, and if your opponent's chilling out grade 3, you could give it the extra 10k. If not, then it's just a 10k. You activate the skill of Lucifer, of course, to call this. Yes. Then you activate the skill of Daisy right here, counter blast 1 more, and then you call something from your deck, and that's when you want to call the Lucifer. You don't use its ability because you have only 1 soul, you're not crazy. If you have more than 1 soul, you could, but again, now it's just a soul game. You have 2 damage, you could take 1 or 2 more, the counter blast will be okay. Okay, this attacks, you could move the markers now if you want, but if you do, then you have the problem that you have run out of soul. That's when we got the extra soul that we lost in the early game, which was the first soul that we soul blasted for the counter charge. If you don't do that, so if you have the extra soul, then yes, you could move the markers right here for that soul blast, and then this attack, and then in the next attack you just soul blast 1 more to move the markers right here. And because this card gives you the extra soul, because when markers move right here, you could still use 1 more soul to move the markers right there. And then you'll be run out of soul, but you have attacked everything with the extra force marker chilling there. But that's not what I want, what I like to do. So we have 1 soul, which is the soul that we add. If you have used the soul blast in the early game, if your opponent being not very good on giving you damage, then this is what you do. So what you do right here is, of course, you have the attackers and the markers being left right here. Yes, so this will be your formation. You attack with this, and normally your opponent would guard this because they don't want to take a crit to their face. And it's not that strong, it's only a 13k. That's the big difference with Lucifer and the Spiking Cyclone. But you do find your opponent always overguarding this attack. If they didn't get a trigger, they would just put the 25k because they say no pass. They will not go into a 2 to pass. If they do, you could just give everything to Vanguard, and sometimes you just go through and just you kill your opponent right there because you're already deck thinning a lot. You get multiple good drive checks. Okay, so let's say that they guard this attack, then you attack with this, and then you Soul Blast, as I said, to move the markers to this side, and then you get an extra soul. You Soul Charge right here, let's say Soul Charge to Dexter or Draw Trigger or whatever, and you attack with this, and this could have gotten the extra 10k, otherwise it's just only a 20. You also retire and draw from Bull Spike ability on all of these attacks. Alright, so that's your formation, that's what you do. On the next turn, let's say that your opponent took everything out and you have only the Rising chilling on the field. That's fine, but normally you just want to guard Lucifer because, again, you don't want to keep calling those Lucifers from your deck and losing Lucifers. Alright, so let's say that it's your next turn, you stand, you draw, you ride into another Rising. We get more beautiful markers to choose from. Which one do you want, guys? We'll not go for these, so we have everything else to choose from. And let's say we go for blue and green. So we have all the colors. We have green, blue, purple, and red. All right. So let's go for these. You could give the marker right here, the Force 2, or give it to the Vanguard, whatever you like, but normally it doesn't really matter. So you have now 2 soul, right? Okay. Now, what you want to do is, of course, you want to call the Bull Spike if you have the Bull Spike on hand. Or you could make a Bull Spike of your abilities if it's Rona or it's Dexter. But normally, let's say that that you have a Bull Spike on hand. Or even better, let's make it more interesting. If you don't have Bull Spike on hand, you still could move the markers with him, right? You know that. So you could also do it like this. It's also a possibility. But normally you have more than enough Bull Spikes. So let's say you go for Bull Spike. So your formation would be like, you have this and you have the 1 soul. So you have the 2 soul. That you always have the 2 soul because you end up your combo with having moved the marker to the grade 2, which gives you the soul. And now you get the ability to use whatever grade 3 combinations you have to get the right cards to the field, which are these 2, and your markers will be looking like this, everything on this side, and this doesn't matter. You could put it in here, you could put it in there, but pretty much you will be moving the markers all around. So you have these 2 as a soul. Alright, then if you don't have this left in your deck, now you want Breach. If you do have it left in your deck, you don't really need Breach, but it's good to have him because he also gives you soul. So you Soul Blast 1, and then you have target these 2, right? You target these 2, so you have both of the abilities that will go off. Then you attack with this. There's a 30, you activate the ability, put Lucifer back to the deck, move this right here. Then you attack with that, you Soul Blast, you move all the markers right here again. Right, and then you attack with this, activate the skill of Lucifer, put this into your soul, call the grade 2 from your hand. On the side that doesn't have the markers, activate the grade 2 ability to call the Lucifer from your deck right here. Now you could Soul Blast, move the markers, all the markers to the Rising, so you have also strong Rising attack. And then this also get the extra 10k because you called with Lucifer. Then you attack with this at the end of the battle, you Soul Blast, you move all the markers right to this beautiful grade 2 that also give us an extra soul. So you Soul Blast, you Soul Charge. This would be 40 attacking your opponent Vanguard, and then at the end of the battle, you Soul Blast the soul that you have just got to move all the markers to here again. And you see, you could move all the markers across your whole field if you have the Bull Spike on the field. If not, if you don't have the bull spike on the field, then you will be put into a strange situation where you have to think, what do I want to do? Do I want to have 4 strong attacks? Do I want to have 5 weaker attacks? What do I want to do? That's what he gives you. I hope that you guys enjoyed it. I hope you enjoyed the first part of the video as well, with me just explaining to you how you could build your deck to make it different. Tell me your thoughts in the comment section below. Tell me what you think about all of this, and also how you will be building them. I've seen some crazy interesting information. Some of my friends on Facebook messaged me with the amazing crazy combos, like the combo that you could do with him, or with Rona as well, that you have only 1 counter blast. So you use this to call him, you soul blast to, so you counter blast, then you soul blast to get the counter charge, and then you use something like a Dexter, and the Dexter right here will be targeting counter blasting 1, putting this into your soul, and then you call something like a double juggernaut or something like that, and that's just insane because you could do that in the early game. And I was like, yeah, Juggernaut doesn't have Dudley in the card name. I was like, yo, it doesn't matter because you use it with Dexter. I was like, ah, okay, you're thinking about if you have only 1 counter blast, that you could counter charge and use it again. So that's really good. You could use it with him, or you could just, again, you could just use it with Rona, and then you could get this right away. But it's something that is crazy that we could do that in the early game, call a double grade 3. But pretty much you could also just do it with the Rona. So let's say that you have a double Rona, and then you could just call this, get the counter charge, and then you could call Dexter, and Dexter will put that grade 3 into your soul, call a double Juggernaut. You'll be attacking very strong. But in this deck, I actually don't feel it is necessary to do your opponent lots of damage in the early game, and the reason is that you will go for force 2 and force 1 anyway, so you will put them from 2 to 4 to 6. And I just don't want them to keep healing. I'm not healing. So the best thing to do is just to put them at 2 damage in the early game. Alright, thank you for watching. Until next time.